Well, two. One more. Now remember where your knees are. Just twist them.
Yep.
Yep. Right over your knees.
Right here?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's a little
That's the
trick.
first. Yeah. I like that. It's crazy. You can work out so many years and I've been working out my entire life and never would have thought to do that. That's awesome. Welcome to the Journey Podcast. I am your host, Josh Valentine, and today we have the honor and privilege of interviewing who I deem to be a absolute legend. I'm really excited for this interview. We have the one and only Mr. Zeke Samples. And for those of you who don't know Zeke, Zeke is a phenomenal individual. He's a professional health and fitness athlete. He is the CEO of Surreal Body Health and Nutrition. He's a runner-up world champion in the world of bodybuilding, and I know you guys are absolutely going to be blessed by his story here today. So appreciate having you here, brother. Thank you so much. Yeah, I know we were getting a little bit of a workout in earlier, and I'm really excited. It's interesting how this even came to be because we were both filming TV segments.
That's right.
And you were sharing just tips and fitness and health and all of that. And I was there as the holistic life coach. And your wife, it's interesting because your wife is actually really good friends with my wife, and we've never met.
Yeah.
They met at a conference years ago and they just stayed connected and they kind of do their thing in the finance space and all of that. And your wife just walks up to me and she's like, "Hey, are you Kia's husband?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I remember Rebecca when I dropped off my wife one time, but in the green room, it didn't really click to me. You're in your zone.
Right.
Yeah. So she walks up to me and she mentions, I'm thinking that she's there to talk about money or finances. And it turns out that she was there for you. So I'm so happy that she got to make the connection. And when she mentioned some of the work that you're into today, I was just really inspired to have you on the podcast. So thanks, brother.
Yeah, this has been great. And it's funny, like you said, how we just came together because when she walked over to you in the green room, she was like, "Josh." And then I was like, "Who's that?"
Yeah.
And y'all started having this conversation the whole time. That was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of know a little bit of you, but not too much of your story. And I'm happy that I got to learn a little bit more as I got to do my own research and kind of talk to you a little bit. And I really wanted the audience to kind of get a better feel for who Zeke is and a little bit about your backstory, what you're up to today, and yeah, what led you to being where you are today.
Sure. I'm happy to talk about it. So my backstory, in my teenage years, I had scoliosis and kyphosis in my spine. And also I know your podcast is very holistic, focuses on a lot of mental health, and the challenges I had with my teenage years and youth. I was a very overweight person. And, at the time that I had the scoliosis and kyphosis in my spine, doctors tell you was born in the 80s. So doctors would say that it's hereditary. Well, I came from a bloodline of athletes. So I felt like I was the one that was dysfunctional. I was the one that had issues that no one else had, and something had happened to me.
Yeah.
But come to find out later on down the road, speaking to more doctors, because chiropractic has been a big part of my life and always will be, is that it's not something hereditary. It's actually something that happens from trauma. So then I started thinking back. I was like, well, what happened that was traumatic in my life? And I remember my brother would babysit me and never liked babysitting me. So what would happen is he was frustrated but he would just mess around with me. So like, here I am, this toddler in our house, and we had bar stools at the kitchen island, and he would just spin me on this bar stool. And then I'd go round and round and round, and then he would just grab the bar stool, and then my head would, of course, do this. Well, sometimes I'd fall off, and then he'd like pick me up. But I thought maybe I hit my head or something.
Yeah.
But I do remember also getting hit in the head very severely with a soccer ball.
Mm.
Just like it was yesterday. I can still see that soccer ball coming at my head, and I couldn't move fast enough, and might have got a concussion there, but any kind of that impact could have hurt my spine. So as I was going through that period in my teenage years, I was told that I would have metal rods come my back if I didn't correct my spine on my own. So of course I was horrified. That was a terrifying thing to me. And I had to wear a back brace for 2 years.
Wow.
And at the same time I was wearing this back brace, I was blessed to be accepted to go to a private boarding school. So it was a very challenging time because, I wasn't there because I had deep pockets. I was there for the academics, but also a lot of these kids were very sport involved. And part of that curriculum was I say forced because it was a requirement, forced to play a sport every trimester. And I was the one that wasn't playing sports with everybody else because I had to rehab my back. And so the ability to make friendships at that time was very difficult too. So that was a strain on what I feel like is to this day. I mean, we're talking I don't know if I'm revealing my age here, 1994 to 1998, but even to kids nowadays, I mean, think about what they're having to go through with school.
Absolutely.
I mean, if they wear the wrong clothes, they're made fun of. If they anything. So just try and not to mention the stuff that we see on social media or these feelings like we have to live up to be this mirage and front of something or somebody that we're not.
Absolutely.
I mean, it creates pressure.
Of course.
And when did cell phones come out? Cell phones, I think 2007 was the first iPhone, if I remember that correctly. So, I mean, this was a time when I didn't even have a phone. So there was none of that kind of pressure in my life at that time, but yet there were other types of pressure. And I feel like that was a time where I was, school was in Virginia, by the way. So I was on campus the whole time, and I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time. That's where my family still is today. So I did a lot of growing up on my own. And then from that point, I read fitness magazines. I found out who was good in the sport of bodybuilding and fitness, but I had to fix my back. I had to fix my spine, and it was all up to me. So through those magazines, I found out who was good in the sport and the exercises that they completed. And I mimicked all of that stuff during the times when other kids were playing sports. I was in the gym, I was in rehab, I was mimicking those things, learning about nutrition. And fast forward to 2016, I didn't have to wear the back brace anymore on my last doctor's appointment. They said I didn't have to have metal rods either. So I didn't, but I had all this built up, I had 2 years of high school of either being picked on
Did you say 2016?
I'm sorry, did I?
Oh, I was about to say.
Meant, so not 2016, 1990. See, I tried this. 1996.
1996.
So I was thinking I was 16.
Yeah.
That's where I got the 16.
Wow. So 1996.
Yeah, there we go. Revealing the age again.
Yes.
So I started high school in 1994. So 1996 and a half, that's kind of where I was told I didn't have to wear the bracelet.
Wow.
And, but I saw it as an empty finish line. It was kind of like, okay, let's do a hand clap and that's it. Congratulations. But blood, sweat and tears for the 2 years prior to that. And then years prior to that, it was a lot of mental torture on being an overweight kid.
Of course. Wow.
It was challenging. And from that point, I thought, well, I don't want to just stop. I love this fitness thing. At least I think I do.
Yeah.
I want to see how far I can take it. And I reached out to some of the best in the industry that I read about in those magazines, and they took me under their wing. And I was fortunate enough to win a teenage national championship when I was 18.
18.
Got second incredible. When I was 19. And then I just stopped. But I ended up going to college close to home. So I just opened up a personal training business and a fitness business with the heart of helping others in their injury prone lifestyle, in their walk of feeling and recognizing who they are or who they want to become, keeping them positive, just like I had kept myself positive. I was not a sports driven person that turned into somebody that wanted to compete in those physical realms. I did it to save my life.
Yeah,
So
that's powerful.
I feel like that was a unique change.
When you went to college, did you know immediately that you were going to be in the health and fitness space, or did you study something completely outside of that?
No, I did. I studied and got a degree in what was called sport management.
Got it.
So that was in the business category or shell or umbrella, but it was centered around owning franchises of gyms
Got
or
it. Got it.
fitness centers or working with sports teams. Those
Yeah.
kind of things.
Yeah. So things kind of came back full circle, just getting into the business of health and fitness
Right.
in a sense. That's really awesome. So I know you played some sports before even embarking on the whole fitness world. And you mentioned to me football. Was football like your main sport as a kid? What was that journey like? I played football, so I really resonated with that part of your story.
So as a kid, again, my age, the groups that we were playing in, or how the decisions were made on what group you were going to play in, was based on your age. Well, I was overweight. I was, I think, 130 pounds at 9 years old.
Wow.
So I was playing with the 13 and 14-year-olds and just getting laid out every play. So it was like hut and then boom on my tail. And my dad played professional football. So he wanted his son to play professional football. But I hated it. I grew to hate it and just thought, why am I even here doing this? So I felt like I was letting him down in a way. And my mom was an alternate on the Olympic swim team, and she was known for backstroke and breaststroke. So I'm the one with the bad back, but she was the master in backstroke. So it's like, see how the mental
Of course.
part
Of
of,
course.
but yeah, so that was a tough time for me in my childhood. I did it briefly, played football briefly, but yeah, that was a short-lived thing.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I see two driving forces. I see a driving force of a young man just genuinely wanting to get better and improve his health because there was just so much pain tied to your condition. But I also see the driving force of your parents and sort of like the expectation or meeting that standard of excellence, especially from a physical standpoint. What would you say was the motivating driving force at 18 years old to really compete at a high level?
Well, my dad did teach me very good things on ethics of personal drive, and that was to never give up. So I feel like that was, or, do you want it bad enough? You just can't quit. Winners don't quit. And some of those things are cliches, but at the same time, it hit home at the time that it needed to, when it mattered the most to me. So I feel like all those things combined, I had to put my big boy pants on as a teenager to save my life with my back. And then you add those personal drive categories on top of that. And I think that was the catalyst. I didn't want to fail myself.
Of course. Of course.
It turned from worry about others to myself and my self passion. Like that was my focus. So when I had won those championships at such a young age, I didn't do it for fitness and fame. I did it to save my life. So, but it got me the opportunity to open up my own gym at a very young age and to do that for quite some time until I sold that business in 2017. Like I was raised knowing all the tricks because I was trained by elite people. So a lot of people, there's so many secondary muscles when you're doing things like literally anything we do, like this, you could choose to do this grip or you could do that grip. The difference would be if you're using that thumb over grip, you're flexing so many extra muscles.
That's right.
So when you're pulling and you're getting tired, you're using those instead of the main
Interesting
muscle you should be using.
Absolutely.
But with we call it a cup grip. With that grip, you're isolating and you're squeezing more than the muscles that you're supposed to feel. So when I did that bicep curl a minute ago, instead of putting the thumb over the top, I put it like a cup grip because I knew I wanted to feel it in the biceps, not twisting the wrist and getting a forearm workout.
It's amazing. Yeah. You never really think of the different variations that these come with. I've been doing this workout for years and I've never considered just changing the type of grip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to do this with clients. I put my foot right here.
Okay. Got it.
And then use that as a gauge. So then they can't ever lean back and use it as momentum.
Feels like I'm getting a lot more of a bicep workout here as well.
So that's because of your grip. Try that thumb over.
Right here?
Yep. And then when you pull, focus on pulling from here.
Got it. Yeah, I can definitely feel the difference in that.
Now those are just cups. And think of them as cups meant to just hold that grip.
Wow. Yeah, I can definitely feel the difference. All right. Definitely great tip. All these years, I would have never thought.
Yeah.
The shift in the thumbs. That's awesome.
Just to kind of prove the point, let's say we had something on there crazy like 180 pounds. I mean, in a sense, you could look at my fingers. You could do this with 2 fingers.
Wow.
As long as, you could hold the bar that way as long as you're pulling with those right and correct muscles. So, for example, thumb over grip, that would happen, but it's the wrong grip. See, my forearms are cranking. I'm trying to get it all the way down. My elbows are coming in. Versus if I did that thumb over grip, it's a streamlined pull. Look at my fingers.
I see that.
Yeah. I'm pulling with my lats and my back. I'm not pulling with forearms anymore. If I did, I'd have to use all fingers.
Of course.
So it's training myself to use those right muscles. So a lot of times I would teach people that have wrist straps to wrap the wrist straps around there, let the wrist straps still hold on with a couple fingers, but that starts to program their mind to hold that bar in the right way.
Got it. Yeah. You also work on the closer grip right here. Same thing. I usually alternate this under, over, same thing on both sides.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for that particular move, you want to make sure that you're grabbing that bar right next to your shoulders. So when you're pulling down, the grip that you have on the bar is right where your front deltoid should be. You don't want to grab it way out here. It's going to put a lot of torque on your elbow and your forearm. You don't want to grab it in because then you've got a lot of wiggle in your elbows there as well, but it's going to cause you to want to pull forward.
Got it.
As you're seated.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's really good to know.
Yeah. Just some setup techniques with ranges of motion for beginners. Always kind of helps them remember where they're supposed to be.
Got it. What would you say is your very favorite machine of all of them?
My favorite machine of all time is probably leg press. Yeah. Cause I couldn't train, with squats. I couldn't put my spine under pressure. So, and that was from my scoliosis and kyphosis I had in my spine. So I didn't learn how to squat. I learned how to be powerful in leg press.
Yeah.
Because it would give you back support, save your spine as that power is still coming down on you.
Absolutely.
So, and I would do some other things as well, like use a leg extension or a leg curl to warm up my knees enough, putting blood flow around there prior to doing the mass movements like a leg press.
Got it. Do you do much cardio at all, like cycling or anything like that? Like, what do you typically do for cardio?
My cardio is either the step mill or the treadmill. Those have always been my best to lose weight the most or the quickest. The stepper is amazing because you melt when you're on that thing.
Yeah.
But the treadmill is what we do every day. So our body's used to that. And I never want to burn muscle, like I said before. So a lot of times if I did a bike, I'm seated, my whole body is relaxed and just my legs are getting the workout. There's a machine called an ergometer, which is in a lot of rehab centers. There's 2 handles on that. You're actually doing this with the ergometer. It's amazing for people that are challenged with strength in their upper body because they can do this in a rehab center. That's a great move to do if you had access. A lot of gyms don't have those, but if you had that and a bike, you could do a little bit of both worlds.
Nice. I've got a comment on the calves. You have amazing calves. And I have heard that calves you can work out every day. Is that true? You can do it every day, or what's your calf routine?
So one of my past clients, when he was a kid, his job was paperboy,
Mm.
and he wasn't a big guy, but he had these huge calves. And I always said, "Man, I want your calves." And he was like, "Well, I want your biceps." So it was funny. But to answer your question, yes, because you can do certain muscles like forearms. You could do those every day. You're kind of indirectly doing them as you do other body parts. Calves, you could as well. But there is a method to the madness. We don't want to do the same exercise or put that weight um, intensity under the pressure uh, every day.
Mm.
So if I just did calves this morning, so if I did the calf raise and I did a seated calf raise and then a calf raise that is a prone calf raise, I wouldn't do those same exercises tomorrow. I might do
Got it.
something a little lighter because I consider those heavier.
Yeah.
I might hold a dumbbell and just do like a single lifting calf raise. So it's not anything that's strenuous to me. I could do 30 or 40 reps of it, but it's a different type of movement. So my calf's going to respond a different way.
Makes sense. It's interesting that you mentioned forearms as well, because one of the things that I noticed about you in particular was your forearms are massive. And is that natural, or did you actually have to work them out a lot?
I always wanted big forearms. So
Yeah.
my past, which we kind of talked about before, when I flipped through those magazines and learned the exercises just raw as a teenager, I always looked up to a certain bodybuilder that had these massive forearms. And I followed his routine that he said he completed to a T. And I did that twice a week.
Nice.
But the reps were so high because it's a muscle. Calves and forearms, you can do higher repetitions and they will respond better than it would if you did those same repetitions for your back. You would probably overtrain if
Of
you did
course.
those reps for your back or
Yeah.
your chest.
Yeah, absolutely. And another question I have with regard to just being naturally gifted in certain areas, I oftentimes hear in the world of bodybuilding that some of it is just your gift. If you were gifted with a specific symmetry or your body, how much do you feel is basically whether you have the gift of your actual body compared to a body that you have to build? Is it like 50-50, or you kind of have to do make up for it? You know, like let's say you have no calves, do you have to like make up for it with the work? What's your view on that?
I feel like genetics has a large role to
Yeah.
play in that. There's ectomorphs, which is your person that has a runner like physique. Cyclist
Yeah.
are like an ectomorph,
Kind of like,
lean or hard gainer.
yeah,
But, you could blow me away in long distance running
Yeah.
probably, where I would pass out after a mile or two.
yeah,
Then you've got your endomorph, which is our linemen of a football team. They're big boned. They have a lot more just overall mass. It doesn't mean that they're overweight or out of shape. They're just like your Viking,
yeah,
And then you've got your mesomorph, which is a blend of the two. And the mesomorphs are coined to be the best at a sport like bodybuilding or
Mm.
fitness and figure, because they don't have to work too hard.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
the ones that can eat bacon in the morning and lean all over the treadmill at a mile and a half.
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah,
just
yeah.
get shredded.
Absolutely.
So, but my parents had an athletic background. I was an overweight kid as a teenager and a young adult. That was one of the challenges I had mentally in my life, was just getting through those years. But I would say that just work ethic and never giving up is really what got me to the next level. And the sport and anything, I mean, it's the sport supplements, and legal or not legal, they're prevalent in any sport
Of course.
nowadays. So then you've got that whole dynamic to answer your question too, who's doing it and not being caught, and who's doing it and
Absolutely.
being caught.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. How would you say the sport has changed or evolved over the last few decades?
oh wow, it's definitely evolved a lot. I mean, if you look at pictures of Frank Zane, Sean Ray, some of the people that just, from the 60s and 70s
Of
that
course.
just had iconic physiques that everyone thought was amazing at that time. And they're still amazing just for longevity terms. But if you look at them and then look at and put them up against the person that is winning today,
Like a Phil
they would be in
Yeah.
last place.
Yeah. Of course.
But
Of
that's
course.
how, you know,
Yeah.
not only chemicals are involved in the sport, but our society as a whole. How many, like, the foods that our parents ate, that our grandparents ate, they didn't have GMOs. They didn't have things having to put in a lot of chemicals
Yeah.
or, pesticides in our foods. So our society as a whole is getting sicker, but it's also getting bigger faster.
Mm.
I mean, I was a 9-pound baby, and everybody in the 1980s was like, "Oh my gosh, your
Yeah.
kid's 9 pounds." I mean, there's little girls and boys that are 9, 10 pounds like this all day long
Of
nowadays.
course. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Very true. What was it like growing up as the son of a former NFL player? Like, was he your dad while he was playing, or did he play before you were born?
no, he
Oh.
he played when they said don't go to the gym because the gym will slow you down. So he played way before or stopped way before I was born.
Did you have like a lot of pressure? People knowing that your dad played in the NFL at all?
No pressure there. It was still a little bit ahead of all those times.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was an All-American in high school, All-American in college. He grew up in Atlanta, so it was Atlanta High School, our North Side, and then it was All-American at Georgia, and then got drafted by the Falcons. So it was like,
That's incredible.
to us, that would be like living here in Tampa your whole life and then get to play for the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's incredible. So while you were in college, did you just know that you were going to go more the entrepreneurial route, or was that part of you like, yeah, the whole job force thing isn't for me? Where was your mindset during that time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I was an entrepreneur from birth. Dad, what he did for a living was he was in the furniture business. So it was him as a sales role, and then the rest of my family is currently in real estate, so they're sales roles, and right out of college too. So
That's awesome.
I feel like what my drive was always to make my life better or be in control of that part of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I believe in the concept of your vibe attracts your tribe, and your
Yeah.
wife is very entrepreneurial. My wife is very entrepreneurial. And you sort of like attract those types of people to you. And
Dreamers.
yeah, exactly. And the gym is the perfect environment for just people who are naturally just motivated or just super driven. And I want to mention your mentorship journey with your original mentor, which you mentioned to me was a former Mr. Olympia 8-time, right? Yeah, the one and only Mr. Lee Haney, who's trained people like Shannon Sharp and Evander Holyfield and so many other amazing people. What was that like? Because I know typically when we go embark on these heroes' journey, there's the call to adventure. There's the great mentor that sort of pops up, right? And for you to embark on that journey, I'm sure it was completely life-changing. So I would love it if you would just share a little bit about that.
Sure. So very few children at the age of 16 wake up at 4:30 in the morning or 4 to go work out, but Lee Haney did, and you were on his schedule. So what was it like? It was a journey. It was an entrepreneurship. It was entertainment at the same time. I remember being at a red light, falling asleep in the passenger seat of his car, and then him tapping me on the head when the light turned green because the car started moving again. And he would say, "Early bird gets the worm." And I remember being used to the machines in my gym, and the ones in his gym were custom made by powerlifters that he knew personally.
Wow.
So as some people know what the Smith machine is, well, the Smith machine is on it's a safe way to do a lot of exercises because it has a latch for the bar. Well, it's on 2 counterbalances that you can't see that are inside those metal arms that make that bar lighter than what it is. Typically a Smith machine bar is 15 or 20 pounds. That real bar is 45 pounds as a free weight. So the counterbalance is on those rods. When I walked over and twisted his, it fell straight to the floor, and I thought I broke it. And he just started laughing and said, "That's a real Smith machine. A powerlifter friend made that for me because it has no counterbalance."
Yeah.
So
That's
just-
really cool.
It was a great time. I had a lot of mentors in my teenage years. Dexter Yeager was
Wow.
another mentor.
That's
He
incredible.
actually found me. I was working in a fitness store, and this man comes in driving a Rolls Royce with no shirt on, a fanny pack,
I love
black
it.
penny loafers,
Back
and
when fanny packs
and
were cool,
and
and
I
they
I
kind of
thought
come back full circle.
I was like, I know I'm not in South Beach. This guy's kind of scaring me a little bit, but um, I remember looking at my boss, and he's like, "You want to talk to him?" And I was like, "I'll be in the back. You let me know." And I just kind of hid to listen what he was going to say. He's like, "I'm looking for Zeke samples," and I was like, "Oh no, what did I do?" And then he told me who he was, and I was like, "You're like an icon.
Yeah.
Like everybody
Yeah.
knows who you are." So
Yeah. Wow.
that was a huge. He taught me about Robert Kiyosaki. Taught me a lot of things. When I'd go to train him in his house, an hour-long training session was half a day, but it was half a day of life and
That's
life
amazing.
lesson.
That's really awesome. I love hearing some of the bodybuilder stories. Like even just recently, I was on the Arnold documentary on Netflix, and he talks a lot about his entrepreneurial journey. And it's just so inspiring to see the bodybuilders who also take that same drive and ambition,
Yeah.
and also just that self-reliance and apply it in the world of business. And
Right.
I want to talk a little bit about your journey through Surreal and what that looked like for you, and what in terms of like risk or like all of that stuff, was it a big risk for you initially? Did you start off small and just kind of go big with it? How did that pretty much start out?
So Surreal started off as something small. At first, it was a partnership with a client,
Mm.
and then it grew into a larger space. And then from that point, I was the sole owner, and I would always advance it. It was funny because it kind of jumped into different places. It jumped into something I could afford that was small, into something that was a little bit bigger in another part of town, into something that was in prime set of town that was the biggest it's ever been. So it continued to grow. And then I had, so in my 20s, I never competed, didn't want to do anything. Like, again, that wasn't really my purpose. And then when I met my wife, she said to me, "You're going to compete one more time." And I'm like,
Mm.
"Where do you get that idea from?" And she's like, "No, you're going to do it. You're not done yet." I had a dream. Like, okay, keep having those
Wow.
dreams. And so then it happened. We got married at Mother's Day of 2015.
Wow.
And I went straight into pre-contest. And my coach, I didn't have a coach at that time. I had Lee Haney and Chris Aceto, but now I wasn't working with them. They had some personal stuff, or Chris had some personal stuff going on. So I had to find a different nutrition coach. And this guy was brought to me by Rebecca, and he was in New Jersey. He was a Christian, and we would be on the phone talking about diet plans and nutrition and what I was going to change, because we would always do check-ins and everything. And he would say, "Okay, Zeke, you're going to eat 6 ounces of protein at this meal." And then he would pause for 6 or 7 seconds and not say anything. I'm like, "Jeff, you still there? You on the phone?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm here. God just told me you're going to do 5 ounces instead." And I'm like, "Okay."
I love it.
So it was, it was very interesting. I felt like I was, Rocky and his trainer. Remember the old white guy? That was
Oh
like,
yeah.
"Okay, down."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I felt like, but Jeff wasn't old. It was just like that kind of feeling where it
Of
was
course.
like, okay, I feel like I'm so the underdog, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
we're just going with this. So
Wow. What was that like at 35? I'm not even 35 yet. I think to think that to start again and reclaim your greatness in a sense and go back to when you were in the trenches. Was it different now that you were established, now that you had a lot more wisdom? What was different about you competing at 35 than you competing as a teenager?
I feel like it awoke a sleeping giant in a
Mm.
way. And I don't mean that in a conceited tone. I mean that completely, as that was a part of my life that I had put to rest.
Mm.
I had said, okay, been there, done that. That was a part of my journey. And then to wake it back up again, I needed a push. I needed people around me. This time I needed them to say, "You can do it," when I complained about something, or the diet or the workout, or "Why am I doing this? I'm 35 years old." I needed those people to kind of give me that push. But once I had that push, whatever it may be, it could be a couple of sentences that made me feel positive about myself, which like people need today.
Yeah.
As soon as I had those, it lit that match, and I was like, I'm doing this. I just had that adrenaline focus, and all those little things added up to me being able to be at a place I'd never thought possible. And when I showed up that year, I had other athletes like, why are you even here? You know,
Mm,
nobody gets to even place at their first show.
yeah.
And, I got second in the world that year.
That's incredible. What did that feel like?
Like it didn't happen until, it took a little while to sink in, but man, it was on pay-per-view. It was in Las Vegas, like everything you can possibly imagine.
Wow. Wow.
And to, to be called out from the top 10 to the top 5 to the top 3, it was South Africa, me, and London, England. And
You're representing the US.
right.
You're the top guy in the US, the number one, pretty much, athlete in the US.
So South
Yeah.
Africa got third. And then I'm sitting there, smiling like, 'cause we always have
Yeah.
to like
Yeah.
look our best.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm literally like either 1 or 2. This is it.
Yeah.
Um,
That's amazing.
I think the reflection for me though, then this is another very important mental part that I dissected myself from this, is that if I would have won, I would have had to compete the next year
Yeah.
to defend it. If I would have
course.
won, I would have had to keep going. What would that have meant to me, and what stress would that have put on my life? I don't know. Could have been positive, could have been negative, but I would have had to do it again,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Second place to me was the best place I could have made, because when I was there, when I was going through that whole entire weekend, it was such a challenge to be there, and then an award to be there personally, and then to be announced second. I thought, you know what, now I can fully feel like this competition stuff that I did is now going to be at rest.
Yeah. Closure.
Yeah. Had closure.
Yeah. It's
Um,
amazing.
and I think that God wanted it for me at that time. He was like, you're going to be up there. You're going to meet people that I'm going to use
Yeah.
later in your life. Because some of the people that I met there are friends with me today, and we're about to do big stuff together.
That's incredible. Yeah.
And I would have never met them if I hadn't been there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so incredible. It brings me back to a time when I was playing football, and I had a really great high school football journey. It was incredible. We won championships. I led the state in interceptions. I was top 5 in the nation for
Wow.
interceptions. And then when I went to college, it was a completely different story. And I kind of battled with identity during that time, especially when you have to hang up the cleats and sort of just accept the fact that, hey, this is going to be it. And I think sometimes we get so hooked on the idea of being number one or being the star player, or just we have this vision for ourselves. But I do feel like it's important to also control the narrative on what it even means to you, because I think about the other things I was able to focus on at that time. I excelled academically. I saved my body in a sense, because who knows, so that I could have gotten injured or something like that. But I love the fact that you really took control over what that even meant for you, because some people would have been just holding on to the idea like, hey, I didn't get the number one spot. We're so tied to the idea of number one, but number 2 was just equally as good, if not even better, because it spared you from having to go down the rabbit hole of continuously being on this journey in a sense. If you love this podcast episode, you are absolutely going to love my weekly Breakfast Club sessions, where I offer complimentary life coaching and mentorship. And I do this live. So you guys can follow me on Facebook, and I go live every single Tuesday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I have people tune in from all around the world. I've been doing this for years, and you can get all kinds of value from your personal life to entrepreneurship skills and leadership and mindset and so many other things. So I look forward to seeing you every single week on the Breakfast Club, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. See you there.
Controlling the narrative is so important in your life. If you're going through challenges that you've had through childhood or through even adulthood, there's so much stuff out there right now that is consuming our time, our minds, social media, things that we hear, that we see, that we believe we have to live up to control that narrative and grasp onto the positive words and affirmations that just anybody can give you can really help you excel and stay focused on your journey personally and make you the best person that you could possibly be, because that's what matters.
I love that. That's so powerful. I know you touched a little on faith, and I know with entrepreneurship, even with health and marriage, faith definitely plays a big part for me. And it's the one thing when you've exhausted all of your options that you can rely on. And I know I'm very big on just integrating faith into just every aspect of my life. So when it comes to business, as you know, it's cyclical. You have your ups, you have your downs, you have the winter season that is inevitable. And it's the same with health. It's the same with marriage. How has faith played a role in those areas of your life, from your work with Surreal as a CEO and also just your fitness journey?
Oh, it's been 100% what I lean on. It's the support system. I come from a faith and a belief so strong that if God's willing to allow these things to happen, that it's going to go the way it's supposed to. And if it doesn't, there's a difference between what we want to happen and what actually happens sometimes. And we can't get mixed up, or we can't get mad when something doesn't end up our way. We can't get mad at God about that.
Of course.
So,
Yeah.
but I certainly lean on that and pray for direction. I feel God wants, he wants for us to be eyes on him all the time too. I mean, we're his children, so he wants you to always ask him what what should be done. He wants you
Absolutely.
to have, that's what the definition of faith is.
Yeah.
It's believing and trusting in him for that he will provide.
Yeah. Yeah. It's powerful. What would you say was the most difficult season for you in business? And how did you kind of get over that season, or just maneuver through that season?
The starting up of a business, I feel like, is some of the most stressful for a person, but it can also be the most rewarding because you're going to have, like you said, ups and downs throughout the business. But I feel that the beginning, if you set it up right, it's a lot of moving parts. It's from taxes to accounting to, if you're having a brick and mortar, if you're doing it virtually, how are you going to get clients? How are you going to retain clients? This social media thing, do you need to do a lot of that? If you don't like making videos, but then you're told to have to make videos in order for people to see you because everybody else that's competing in your industry is making videos, all those different parts can be a lot to somebody.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to faith and relying on your own abilities, being confident in your own narrative and knowing that you're not going to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Absolutely. I like the idea that you also just mentioned your plan versus God's plan. I love the old proverb that states, man makes plans and then God laughs. We have our plan and then God's plan, of course. And it never quite goes exactly how you want it to go. But when you look and connect the dots, you can most certainly see that it worked out and it was the best thing for you based on where you were, because we can't really see everything, right? We
That's
don't
right.
see those blind spots and all the other variables that are taking place. So, did you work out during this whole entrepreneurial journey? Was that a big part of your lifestyle?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You mean work out through my whole life?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. That's something that I've had to do, for my health, my back. It's also been something that's been grown to be my passion. It was there and it was a life-changing event for me
Oh,
at age 14. And it's always going to have a part in my story.
that's powerful. What would you say has been the greatest benefit to just keeping health and fitness, and even specifically weightlifting, as part of your life?
People don't think I'm 44 years old.
Yeah.
No, so,
I love it.
but yeah, it's just the health aspect.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned before, in another conversation, our food has evolved so much. So the food of the 90s, the food of the 2000s, GMOs, all that stuff is just evolving in a way where you have to be on top of that in order to still stay healthy. You could do all this gym stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And if your food and nutrition isn't right, you could still end up with some of the major health concerns of
Absolutely.
people that don't go to the gym.
Yeah.
But the gym is here as a staple for just health and longevity and exercise.
Yeah. Most definitely.
So it's not all about the weight you move. It's not all about um, even how long you're in here, just that you're actually doing something. And it could be in the garage in your house.
Definitely. Definitely. I know mental health is a hot topic today. And as a holistic life coach, this is probably one of the biggest things that I have to cover,
Yeah.
especially with clients that I work with. In terms of mental health and fitness, what would you say are some of the benefits to someone's mental health overall?
Well, you have endorphin release,
Yeah.
which is positivity. You have
Yep.
growth hormone release.
Hmm.
You have a lot of the natural hormonal balances of the body. Is you ever seen that movie where the guy ate McDonald's every day
Oh
and what
yeah,
happened?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Destroyed his body.
the chemicals
Yeah.
changes that your body is under with something
Mhm.
like that versus if we were to have an endorphin release, a hormonal release of leptin, which is your fat burning hormone, testosterone, estrogen. And when those things are balanced, your body is performing at its optimal level.
Yeah,
And sleep always complements those things as well.
yeah,
So
yeah, most definitely. What would you say you feel? How old do you feel today? I know you mentioned 44, but what would you say is your biological age? Because I know some people, they may be 44, but they feel 60. Just from working out your entire life, what would you say you are today?
well, I can still outrun 20-year-olds. So
Nice,
I was
nice.
always fast. Like that was the thing. Like when I tried out for football,
Yeah.
I was running a 4.5, a 4.6.
Wow.
And people were like, how are you
Wow.
doing that? Like, I mean, I could have probably done something really lucrative, but my back wouldn't allow it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted to be in the military as well, but my back wouldn't allow it.
Mm,
So, but yeah, I think that the mental challenges can always be overcome if you're doing the right things in your life. I feel like you're a combination of the top 5 people that you surround yourself with.
most definitely. Yeah. Now, as it pertains to marriage and fitness, I know Rebecca is a bit of a fitness enthusiast. At least my wife claims she is. I would assume so, being with you. How does that work out? Do you guys ever work out together? Do you both give each other pep talks or motivate each other? Do you meal preps together? What does that look like?
We meal prep together.
Nice.
We used to work out together. Sometimes, well, now we just do it different times. But the biggest thing that she adds to me is keeping me on track for the supplements that I take and the choices of the nutrition that I do use. She used to work at a holistic neurologist's office, so
Mm,
they had a lot of patients in there that suffered from Alzheimer's, autistic children, different uh, groups that needed very specific supplements that didn't contain your fillers or your fake sweeteners.
wow.
This industry is overrun with sucralose and different products in your supplements that are just fillers. And they can be taken by some of the prettiest looking people on the outside, but what's it doing to your inside?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of products that we take that were made by doctors.
Yeah.
And those have been some of the cleanest products. They're not the cheapest, but we know that they're doing what they're supposed to do for our body. And we're at a stage in our life now where it's all about longevity and health. We don't have kids yet, but we want kids one day.
Yeah.
So those are things that we definitely want to take seriously.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of the vision overall for where you are in the world of fitness, and you're speaking on TV that's streamed across millions of households, what's the vision today in terms of your journey through fitness? Is this something that you feel like you're going to be doing pretty much for the rest of your life, or you want to exit at some point?
It's no, I don't see myself ever exiting because it's a knowledge base that I have that I can pass on to others. And the person that I enjoy helping the most is your busy professional, the person that is in their 30s to 60s who doesn't know how to eat properly or is inundated with, google.com. I mean, you can go down a rabbit hole on some of the things there and hear 45 different opinions on nutrition and exercise. I feel like what I have to offer comes from one of the purest places of my coaching realm that I came from. We call it the old school. I mean, the way nutrition and exercise really should be done for the body. Not, I mean, look at CrossFit, not bashing CrossFit and anybody that's doing it, but if you put 25 people in a room that just hit the gym and 25 people that CrossFit, and you ask everybody to raise their hand on who got injured, where they work out,
Yeah,
which hand,
of course, of course.
so there's something to say about that.
Yeah,
You, and it's not that that sport or that league or that industry causes that. It's the people that are doing it might not be ready for that, and that could be because they
great
have
point.
one leg longer than the other, or
Yep.
their shoulder is weak and they didn't know that.
Yeah,
So those individuals, those people that have those body challenges are ones that I can really specialize in because I can see that stuff and
got
I
it.
can work around that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot
If
of
that
sense.
makes sense. Yeah.
Oh yeah. What excites you the most about the direction that this industry is going in?
Excites me the most is that it's probably one of the top 3 industries that we have in this nation today. You've got the food and drug um, realm that we have, where it's multi-billion-dollar industry. You've got, well, if we separate those two, you've got food and everything that's involved with food, and then you've got drugs that are people have to take if or want to take if they're trying to lose weight, or if they have diabetes or something. So you've got these over here that we're trying to keep people away from. We're trying to teach people how to be healthy, and they won't have to take those things. So you've got kind of a battle there, but at the same time, you've got the health and fitness industry that is a big part of that because they all kind of work together.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that the industry is always going to be there. I'm just want to make sure that when people are taking a part of it, that they know what they're doing and they're making the best decisions for them.
Absolutely. If you had to write a one-page letter, let's say a manifesto to America on how to reclaim their health, what would be sort of like the essentials that you would say if this was your last piece of advice that you were going to give for someone to really get their health back in order and maintain their health for the rest of their lives? What would you put in there?
I would tell them to analyze what they're currently doing. Then that gets them to reflect on themselves. Because if they write down what they're doing, they're going to see where they can make changes.
Yeah.
And then once those changes are made and they educate themselves on ways to fix some of the issues they have, I feel like that's going to help them learn how to take care of their own problems.
Of course.
Then they don't have to be confused with a lot of the information that they might hear because they've, just like I did, I kind of self-taught myself, but I went to the right sources in order to do that.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. What would you say are like your biggest concerns as it pertains to just health, specifically in America, because our lifestyle is just very busy. A lot of people are consuming social media, getting very minimal sleep. In terms of where we are today, what are some of your biggest concerns with this next generation? I have 3 young boys, and obviously, I'm going to be really interested in just the development of their health overall. But sometimes you see them playing the video games, and I'm just like, they need to get out more. They like the sweets and all of these different things. What would you say are some of the biggest threats to just the longevity of your average American citizen?
I think it would be the biggest threats would be something that is going to take your time away from the family. I mean, how many families nowadays sit down together and have dinner?
That's right. That's right.
So
Absolutely.
these devices and these distractions that we have need to be limited. And when you limit them, you focus that time and energy into doing more outdoor things,
Of course.
more things as a family. And I feel like that healthy structure also complements the holistic brain patterns that are going to take these children into being responsible adults.
Yeah. I so agree with that. Even just the benefits from a biochemical standpoint, you have not only the endorphins and the dopamine and the serotonin from the sunlight being outside, but also the oxytocin benefits from that social bonding. So just from a holistic standpoint, I agree 100%. It's funny because the other day, my wife and I, she was finishing up dinner and we were just all over the place. The kids were upstairs. I was down there and we were going to, she kind of mentioned to them like, hey, we could just, eat, they want to just do their own thing, eat. And I was like, no, let's get grounded here. Let's do our thing. So that's been the one tradition I would say that we're so adamant of holding together, because it does bring the family dynamic together. And my rule is no social media, no phones or anything while we're at the table, and just have regular human conversation.
Yeah.
So is that something that your family did? Like you guys did a lot of family dinners together?
We did.
Okay, nice.
That true quality time.
Oh
And
yeah.
I feel like that's so important with the way the human brain grows and develops too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
you can't imagine. I mean, I know that but toddlers know what's going on.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
So you
Yeah.
you got to start these kind of patterns young.
Definitely. What would you say you would want to be remembered for? If there's anything that comes to mind, what would be the first thing that comes to mind?
I want to be remembered as somebody who comes from a place of faith, fitness, and a good foundation of what I believe in and helping others. I feel like that's why we're on this earth, is to not only worry about ourselves, but to use our time to help others
Yeah.
and in their pursuits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if there's any piece of advice, let's say, God forbid, this was the very last interview you ever did, what would be that advice to the world?
Boy, that's a tough question. Get saved.
Yeah. Hey, I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
But no, seriously, outside of that, I would say to um, connect with the family that you have. If this was, like you said, the last day on earth and nothing else was going to happen past this point, make those phone calls and,
Yeah.
connect with those, be at peace with those that you might have offended.
Hmm.
And just know that you're at peace when you're going to graduate from this earth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%. It's just family is so important. It's just so important for society overall, and just our overall development. You have so many people that go through trauma because, just the family dynamic has been affected in a major way. So I love the idea. I have the 5 Fs. I structure them a little bit different, but pretty much the same concept. And that's faith, fitness, family, fortune, and fun, in that order. And I do believe that if you have the faith is the glue that sort of keeps everything together. The fitness, just important. So if you're going to take care of anyone, you have to take care of yourself first. Kind of like the idea of the airplane. If you're there and the oxygen mask drop down, you have to put yours on first, right?
Yeah.
And then your family and community in general, it's essential. So I'm so happy that now, you're like my extended community, and it's a blessing that, we got to sort of cross paths, and I'm looking forward, brother, to more interviews. Hopefully we can get you on some more interviews down the road to kind of track your progress and everything like that.
Yeah, I would love to. There's tons we can talk about.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. One interview definitely cannot encompass just an incredible life well lived so far. And I know there's still so much more to go. 44 is really young. So I'm excited to see what's next for you in terms of where can people find you? And I know you have a book that's also about to come out.
Yeah.
If you don't mind just sharing a little bit about that. That would be
Sure.
great.
So the book is describing my life story
Nice.
in a little more detail, and it comes with a lot of scriptural principles,
Love it.
and it is used as a motivator and a support system for people that might be struggling in their lives. And the title of the book is "There's No True Finish Line."
Nice.
So it's going to be something that I feel like can help people that are struggling in any area of their life. And God bless me, with this path, with this journey. Of course, we know that sickness is of the devil. So scoliosis and kyphosis was something that is not a pure blessing, but it's something that has turned into an opportunity to bless so many people throughout my life and my journey.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad about having it at all.
Oh yeah, yeah. It
Um,
reminds me of the saying, "Life isn't happening to you; it's happening for you." And in
right,
your case, you actually turned it for good.
right.
Yeah.
But I do have a couple of websites. My first and last name, Zekesamples, zekesamples.com. And also the business website is Surreal, Surreal Body,
Nice,
HN. And that
nice.
stands for health and nutrition.com.
Absolutely. Nice, nice. And in terms of any services or products that you provide today, what can people reach out to you for? Whether it be personal training or online courses, what do you offer today?
Sure. I offer a few courses specializing in weight loss. Of course, I know how to gain muscle too, but um, the getting somebody into the healthy states naturally and sustainably is what my specialty is.
Nice.
So that encompasses mostly weight loss, which I feel like is one of the biggest epidemics of our nation right now.
Of course.
And it can be someone who's pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
It can be someone who is not diabetic, but on the path to diabetes.
Mm.
And it can be somebody who just needs to lose weight. And this is of any age.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do it with a few supplements that are all natural, full of amino acids,
Nice.
and also backfill the body with nutrients that this diet that we have in the United States has made you deficient in.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. So make sure you guys go and check out Zeke's website, check out his social media as well. And social media, just put your name in and they'll
Yeah,
find you.
yeah. Well, Surreal Body HN is the
Nice. Nice. Okay.
Instagram handle too,
Awesome.
and then I've got a Facebook page, Surreal Body Health and Nutrition.
Absolutely. So make sure you guys go and follow Zeke. Zeke, it's been great, brother. I have a
Yeah,
feeling that
thank
we're
you.
going to be doing at least another one to capture a little bit more on your story as well as some of your progress over the next several months. So it'll be great to have you back on, and
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate you, brother. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be able to get value from this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was a blessing, and I appreciate your time too.
Absolutely. So that is our time, guys. Be sure to tap in with us on the Journey podcast for another episode of another incredible guest. And I hope you guys were blessed today, and we'll most certainly be seeing you soon. Take care.